I would say that your responsibility to educate on race issues starts and ends with where you feel comfortable. You don't have to explain off your lungs to everyone. You can go ahead and be a book for someone. It's just where someone feels comfortable. I feel like sometimes it is expected of a black person or the black person in the room, if it's just one, to be the explainer of race issues, when that's not the case. White people can read too. White people can read too, and there are many books out there that could explain the same thing that I could explain. So I feel like it's just about where you feel comfortable. I would say posting about racial issues is very important. Not only does it get the word out there, but it shows people it's not just about me posting about it, but that you can post it too. It's not just for the black people to do the work, and I've said this on my own YouTube channel before. Black people can't undo what white people did to black people. It's not for the black people to undo racism, because how can a black person undo racism? It doesn't make sense to me. About cutting people off, I would not advise to anyone like, oh, you need to cut that person off. No, I feel like people are different. Some people are willing to learn, know how to listen, are able to change views if they're saying something that isn't particularly right. Sometimes people don't realize that what they're saying. If it gets to a point where you just can't deal with that person anymore, then they're gonna have to get cut off. But I feel like it's not a necessity to cut people off during this period.
I don't think it's up to black people to educate white people on race. I think it is up to them to do more. There should be more books, there should be more learning, it should be mandatory, and it's not up to us to teach and talk to our employers about it and constantly be fighting. It should just be there. I mean, come on, Google. Just Google stuff. I don't know about most people, but I'm in fear of white fragility, of upsetting people, you know, because for the longest time when we bring up being black, we're always seen as not letting go of the past. It's over, it's not happening, but it is, because there are so many different microaggressions that we have to deal with on a daily basis. It's always there. It's subconscious racism that everybody does. Like, everybody does. Black people do it as well, but there's this white superiority in the workplace, like hands down, like by default. We're also not interested in white saviorism, which is like white people propping themselves up who feel like they're helping us. It's not about helping us, it's about being an ally, you know, being with us, not helping us, you know. There's a difference.
I believe that our responsibility when it comes to educating others on race issues starts with sharing, period. I feel like at the very least we should be sharing information. When we're educating ourselves, I think it's so easy to just assume because the information's out there that other people know, they've heard it, they've seen it, but that's not always the case. And even if it is, it's still partly your duty to share, just in case. We can't make any assumptions. I think assumptions has got us into this place as well, because we assumed that we were valued and we assumed that we were on equal footing now in terms of race, but it's not the case. It's not been the case. I know we don't want to enforce our views on other people, but I feel like if you notice something, it's your duty to share it. I don't believe in condemning people for not reacting the way that you would react or you think they should react. We're all different and the world has worked because we're different, and we just can't do that. That's not right. That affects people's mental health. It makes them feel like they're part of the problem, and that's not right. I just don't believe it's okay. But I do think we all have a duty to do something in a way that we are comfortable.
It really depends on what you feel is right for you. So for me personally, I don't feel that I should be expected to educate anyone. I think more often than not, Black people are expected. And I think that's wrong because of the emotional labor, the toll it takes on us to constantly have to explain our experiences. To be a real ally in this subject to non-Black people, I would advise that you recognize that, you know, being an ally is a constant, never-ending process. It is your responsibility to do the reading, to do the research, and to be an active sort of supporter of the Black community. And I think that that's something that needs to be emphasized, because right now, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, people think that they just posting up a book or reading one book, that's the end of it. Like, that is not what it means to be an ally. Allyship is a constant process, but because of people failing to do the work, it means that a lot of Black people do not believe in allyship. Our focus is more on each other, and you have to understand why that is. And I think once you understand that, it will help you be like a better ally to the Black community. Lastly, if someone's social media, you know, if you're upset around them, you know, not speaking up, them being complicit, you don't owe them any explanation as to why. If you want to explain, then you can, but I would not say that anyone owes anyone an explanation when it comes to racism. Especially right now, it's a very tense and difficult situation for a lot of Black people all over the world. So if you don't feel supported, or you feel uncomfortable by someone who is choosing not to, like, at the end of the day, it's a choice. They're choosing not to speak up, and they're doing the bare minimum, if even that. So do what you need to do.
When I think of kind of like educating friends or family, or just anyone basically who is worth it, is worthy of it, because there's no point of educating people who don't want to be educated, but like on all sorts of oppressions, I do think that like it is okay to do that, but they also need to actively be educating themselves. I've had people, friends, family, educate me on things, but like, you know, I do also need to do my own research, you know, and I feel like there needs to be like that balance. Some people are willing to teach and give you resources, but you also need to seek them out yourself, because in this day and age, especially if you do live in the West and you do have access towards technology, you know, there's really information at your fingertips, like, being honest. And when people do use the phrase Google is free, it is. And you know, there's so many places where you can find information on this stuff. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be educated, but it should also come with you educating yourself. People are just posting books, articles, you know, all sorts of things, even just small posts that teach you stuff. So information is really, for some of us, at our fingertips, and the more privileged you are, well, especially when it comes to economically, the more information you have on your hands. There's nothing wrong with your friends educating you, in my opinion, but first and foremost, you need to do it yourself. But you also have to respect their boundaries. If your friends and your family are not willing to educate you, then just lump that and go, because Google is free, you know? It really is free.
Everyone has a responsibility, whether that be to knowledge share or to build your own knowledge. We all have a responsibility, because this is all of our histories. I think there's a time and a place to have the conversation. Sometimes work may not be the right place to start a controversial discussion. However, acknowledging race at work, acknowledging diversity, the lack of it sometimes in the workplace, in leadership, shouldn't be a problem. Also, if you find a good article or you've watched a good series, vlog, anything like that you've seen a link on YouTube that you think is really good, and think, oh, this is appropriate for my work colleagues, I should share this. I don't think there should be anything wrong with that. A lot of work environments now and employees, they encourage us to be ourselves always at work and to feel comfortable. So if you're unable to do this, then maybe you need to take that up with your manager, because you shouldn't feel uncomfortable to do that. I don't think there's any reason to cut somebody off, but some people probably don't know they're posting the right thing. So social media is only social media. I don't think that really matters. Somebody can be the biggest advocate on social media, but then be a racist in real and doing some dodgy stuff and using the N-word to people and disrespecting people left, right and centre. blatantly discriminating in their everyday life. So I think, again, it goes back to a previous episode on 7 Opinions. Reality and social media are two different things. So if somebody hasn't been posting on social media, okay, but if they're turning out in life, in everyday life, then that's good enough for me.
I think posting about racial issues on social media can be beneficial. It can serve an educational purpose and also raise awareness of what's going on in communities and around the world. However, I don't think that's where it stops. I think we need to encourage people to actually have uncomfortable conversations in places that they spend their day-to-day lives in, for instance the workplace, or with their families, or with their friends. Have these conversations, share your experiences, and try and drive change and stamp out racism in any way that you can. Learn more from other people, learn more by educating yourself in terms of reading books, attending seminars, whether it be unconscious bias seminars, or just learning about prejudices and how that can manifest itself in different ways in your life. That's actively trying to do something in terms of changing society as it is and stamping out racism. If the way you can contribute is through social media in terms of educating people about your experiences or racial issues around the world, then also do that as well. Find what works best for you.